Okay, so here we've got a series of 4 equations. Here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, and here's 4. So we're going to solve these with an algebraic method. This is called a linear equation. This is called a linear equation. This is called a quadratic equation. And this is also called a quadratic. Now this one's called the linear equation because if you think about it, if I draw a graph of 3x plus 2, I'll get a straight line, right? If I draw a graph of 2x minus 6, I'll get another straight line. And we practiced solving these by using a graphical method. So that's why they're linear equations, because it's just x to the power of 1, and here's another linear. So can you imagine drawing a graph of 5x minus 3? This is called a quadratic because it's got x squared in, so it's quadratic. This has also got an x squared in, it's quadratic. They're slightly different quadratics. This has got x squared and a number. This has got x squared and x's. Okay, so let's go ahead and try and solve each of these equations using our methods. So linear, pretty much I'm going to use the balancing method, right? So I'm going to minus 2x from here, minus 2x. So I'm going to get x plus 2 equals to negative 6. And then I'm going to put minus 2, and I'm going to get x equals to negative 8. Okay, you could test that out to see if that actually works. Negative 8 goes in here, right? Negative 8 goes in here. You should find each side balances. And let's do the second one. Again, I think balancing, right? I think plus 3, 5x equals, let me just get the colour. 5x equals 3, and then divide by 5, x equals 3/5. Great, we can just leave it like that. You can change it to a decimal, do it on your calculator, but I think we'll try non-calculator. And now over to the quadratic. Well, I'm going to try using the balancing method for the quadratic, all right? So plus 48. So that will give me 3x squared equals 48. And then that looks quite similar to before. Divide by 3. So that'll be x squared equals to 16. And then if I take the square root of both sides, I will have x equals to 4. But there's also a negative 4, right? 2 solutions to this one. So it looks like balancing method has worked really well. So if it's linear, for sure the balancing method, right? But also if it's quadratic, then this balancing method seemed to work also. But can you see that x was just in one location? Now let's go and try the balancing method for this quadratic. So what might we do? We might, I don't know, plus 2x, x squared equals to 2x, which thinks square root. That'd be x equals to what root 2x. See, there's a problem. I've got x in 2 different locations. Now, this is a problem because for this quadratic, the balancing method just does not work. For this quadratic, the balancing method does work. Can you see the difference? Here, x is in one location. So if x is only in one location, we can definitely do the balancing method for a quadratic. Here we've got an x squared and a minus 2x, so we've got different terms, right? We can't do much with this, so that's why we need to switch to a new technique, and this new technique for quadratics is called factorizing. So we need to be thinking of factorizing. And I will show you how to solve this equation by factorizing. Okay, so let's go and take this as a separate page. It's x squared minus 2x. First of all, I'm going to be thinking this as a product. So I'm going to take out a common factor. Instead of this x squared, I'm going to think of it as x times x, and this is 2 times x. So can you see a common factor? X is in both pieces. So we take out x out as a common factor. Now in here, we just copy down the subtraction, and then we think x times by what gives me xx? Well, that's an x there. And x times by what gives me 2x? So that's 2. Just test it out, make sure that that works. Make sure you factorize. So factorized means put into brackets. X times x gives me the x squared. X times by the negative 2 gives me negative 2x. All right, so that's it. we have got this amazing position now where we can go ahead and solve this equation, because all we have to do is let's make the first part equal to 0. What would happen if we made x equals to 0? Let's check. If we make this part equal to 0, then we also have to put a 0 here. Let's test out. 0 times by 0 minus 2 equals 0 times by negative 2, and 0 times by anything is 0. Of course, this is a solution. But what if we made x minus 2 equals 0? That would mean x equals to 2, right? Because it's just plus 2 plus 2. Now let's go and test drive 2. If we take 2 and we substitute it in here, that's 2. And if we substitute in here, 2 minus 2 is 0, and 2 times 0 is 0. Let's just test that out and write it out. So if x equals 2, we've got x into x minus 2 equals 0. And if x is 2, let's go put 2 here and 2 minus 2 here. That is 2 times by 0, which equals 0. So this is super important, that if we have anything a times by b equaling 0, so we can just make either a equals 0 or b equals 0, and that will solve our equation. So that is the key to solving quadratic equations when we have an x squared and some x's. Here we had only the x squareds and numbers, and this was easy enough to do with the balancing method. The balancing method here for this quadratic with x squared and x's just doesn't work, so we switch to a factorizing technique. All right, and the factorizing is taking out a factor, and then using this property we make each of the factors equal to 0, and we might get 2 solutions.